You want to know what I think? I think there is a trans genocide.
Okay.
And I think it's you.
Okay.
Because you're sterilizing a lot of these people.
Is this the joke you're going to go for?
Joke? You are removing these people's ability to reproduce.
Tim,
You
I don't have the ability to
it,
do this.
right?
I support people having access to health care. Of course. Why would I want to prevent that just because some people have bigotry towards them?
Let's try again. You seem scared of this. Do you believe that parents and doctors should have the ability to remove the ability of a child for future reproduction? Let me ask you a question, right? Like Jazz Jennings is sterile, right?
I don't know much about Jazz Jennings.
Jazz Jennings.
She's a reality TV star, right?
Jazz Jennings.
Yeah.
I'm concerned that Jazz isn't trans. Because
that's not for us to say.
I didn't say. I said I'm concerned that Jazz is not trans, right? And the reason is Jazz is dating women now, right? So then Jazz would.
What does that have to do with being trans?
Well, Jazz would then be.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy. So they transitioned Jazz Jennings before they knew their sexual orientation.
Yeah, Jazz was a
Jazz
child.
was super young, yeah.
Yeah, it was like 7 or
what
something.
was the
like
age? Well, first of all, I don't know why Tim's bringing up her sexual orientation because that is irrelevant. So,
right.
I always forget. Was it the majority of people that transition are straight?
No, it's
gay?
60% are same-sex attracted to their biological genetic.
Right. So 40. Yeah, but 40% aren't. That's still a massive number. So.
Well, I think it's like 66%. It's like a third.
Right. Well,
and
whatever. It's a
2/3.
big number.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yes.
But
it's odd that they don't split it up either, because I wonder how many of those are same-sex attracted males and how many are same-sex attracted females.
Oh, the
that would be
study
interesting.
that we were talking about, it's not split up?
I don't think it is.
Yeah, that is interesting because I would be curious about that.
Like
says,
if the 30% is like all males.
Right.
Yeah.
It says Jazz began appearing on a television show at the age of 6.
Yeah.
Claiming to be transgender. So that's pretty wild.
Well, I mean, I
six.
I feel like I was Me Too and the babysitter at about 6. So, I mean, I don't.
God, I forgot about that, Adam. I forgot that.
I feel like I knew what my sexual orientation was at 6. So,
I don't think you did. I think you probably just. I don't think you understood what you were doing. But
no, I knew what I was
your
doing.
babysitter.
Look, the babysitter had some big tatas, and I was like,
Adam was born Coomer.
Look, does that?
I do recall having a crush on one of my babysitters. That definitely.
So did I at the age of like 5 or 6, but I don't think I knew like, oh, I like this woman. She's attractive. And I felt like something, but I didn't know, like, I couldn't verbalize what was going on. Right.
Aren't all babies attracted to tatas though? That's like not a male female thing.
I'm attracted to McDonald's, so.
Yeah, totally. You get it. There's certain
Or
things.
6-year-olds more attractive to chicken nuggets.
I would probably say the chicken nuggets, but
yeah,
probably. I mean, it's all breast though, so.
It's all breast meat. That's why the kids like the nuggies. Oh my God, you're
See?
right.
Yeah.
How do we never know?
It's all about the nuggies.
It's all about the breast meat. Oh my God,
that's why everyone wants nuggies. It's because everybody wants boobies.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What does it have to do with being trans?
So it has to do with whether or not Jazz made the decision for themselves or the parent made it when they were 3 years old. So the question is, we want to avoid a John Money type situation, right? Where you had these 2 kids and the doctor told one of the young.
Does Lance know about John Money? My money's on no. Has no idea what he's talking about.
He's got to have heard it before.
No, right? He doesn't. He's totally in the dark.
If he's going to be like, I have a reaction, if I have a retort for the Stinsman study, right? He probably has this. This is what I guess. If you brought up John Money, he'd say, I think John Money was evil because the kid didn't have gender dysphoria, wasn't trans, and they tried to transition him against his will and sexually assaulted him, right?
Okay.
So that's so therefore that I don't have to, lose any part of my argument. That'd be my guess. But
right.
Lance is really stupid. So maybe I shouldn't give him even any faith that he'd have any sort of logical, coherent counter argument.
Look, he's not surveying the whole situation though. So he's not encountering things like the John Money story just outside of Googling for some particular study that's going to help him debunk Tim Pool's last video. That's my point.
Right.
Like I heard the John Money thing for the first time in the book Why Gender Matters, which was it's not even really related to trans issues at all.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I heard about it because I went to psych classes way back in the day. But
Oh, okay.
the worst thing about John Money is that it took years for it to be revealed that it was
Oh yeah.
as horrific as it was.
They
It
totally
really only
buried
came out,
it.
I think it really only came out when David Remmer killed himself. So
Right.
Those that don't know, John Money was the person who originally coined the concept, I believe, that gender and sex are separate ideas, and sort of the concept that gender was all socially conditioned. And there was a kid that had basically a botched circumcision, so he lost his
They
genitals.
burned his dick off.
Yeah,
Ouch.
it was not really bad. So he lost his genitals. So essentially, John Money basically convinced the parents that, well, since he doesn't have a penis, it'll be better to basically raise him as a girl and according to my new theory of gender, which I just fucking made up on the spot here, I believe I can raise him as a girl and he'll identify as a girl and he'll be happier, because he doesn't have a penis. And they went along with this, and obviously this did not work because that's not how anything works.
Yeah, of course.
Gender is not just this, like, people are not blank slates. You can just fucking change their gender. And so the kid had all sorts of problems. There's all sorts of like wacky shit I'm not going to get into with how he was trying to reinforce the gender roles that were super fucked up. But essentially the kid had all sorts of problems. He never took to it. Eventually his parents told him the truth. He felt so much better when he realized he was a boy and immediately started living as a boy. But because of a lot of things in his life, he ended up committing suicide anyway. So
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a trans indoctrination that is coming through media.
Genocide, I said it.
Yes, and I'm saying that I don't think there's a trans indoctrination coming through media that is programming kids to become trans. I think that's ridiculous.
So-
and if you want to change topics to talk about trans genocide, we can move on to that. But you asked me specifically why is there a spike?
Yeah.
That is why.
Okay, so my follow-up is, you think trans people feel safer than ever?
No, right now there's over 400 different bills being pushed in the United States that is directly targeting trans people.
So they don't feel safe.
Of course they don't.
So then why are they coming out if they don't feel safe?
They have more access because that Generation Z, has a lot more acceptance towards trans people than older people who pass laws, draconian people who pass laws. The boomers are the ones running the show right now. They're still the ones in government. They're still the ones passing laws. There's very few Generation Z in government or parliament.
You want to know what I think? I think there is a trans genocide.
Okay.
And I think it's you,
Okay.
because you're sterilizing a lot of these people.
How so?
I mean, they're literally sterilizing them. The surgery to remove the gonads, hysterectomies, and puberty and cross-sex hormones and puberty blockers have a high rate of sterilization. I mean, first of all, removal of the gonads in the uterus is an absolute sterilization, and then puberty blockers have a very high rate, and cross-sex hormones have an extremely high rate of sterilizing the individual. So these people can no longer reproduce. That's genocide.
Is this the joke you're going to go for?
Joke? You are removing these people's ability to reproduce. And if they're a young age and they haven't had the ability, like for instance, Jazz Jennings can never have kids. Jazz Jennings also, and this probably part of your studies, can't actually feel any sexual feeling of any kind.
Do you have any idea how weird this sounds right now? Like, why are you obsessing with a stranger's genital pleasure? That's so weird. That's
Such a weak, dishonest attempt to derail the conversation. Like,
What the fuck is genital pleasure? Like, where did he come up with that term?
you can't feel anything. You can't have an orgasm. So it was a very, very poorly worded comment. But like,
We're talking about genital pleasure here?
I mean, but Lance being like, oh, it's weird to talk about genitals when you're talking about like trans people, like that's a big part of the conversation. So to be like, oh, it's weird for you to talk about this, it's like, no, this is a big part of the conversation. So this whole thing that Lance does is just an attempt to derail it.
I thought the left was supposed to be sex positive too. They're like, shouldn't they be concerned about somebody losing all sexual function for their entire lives?
I'm not sure. I mean, it doesn't seem very compassionate to not care if someone loses sexual function.
I know his attitude is basically like, what? Some people live without sex. Fuck it. It's like, I mean, maybe Lance is living without sex, but I'm
I
telling
think he's
you,
married. He's wearing a ring.
Is he really?
Isn't he wearing a wedding ring?
Well, maybe he's gay married. Who knows?
I mean, so Oh, but isn't the general pleasure thing? It sounds like something like in a cyberpunk sci-fi movie where there's like a bunch of alien prostitutes. They're like, hey, baby, want some genital pleasure?
I agree.
I don't know what genitals you got down there, but I'll do any.
Man, them Octurians don't matter if it's a boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Get the reference?
Yes.
Yeah, I've never heard the term genital pleasure before this show. So,
well,
that's why
it's
I'm
just
like, where'd that come from?
It's the thing I talked about kind of when I had the dust up with Jangles and Punish Mom, where they're like, oh, they assume you're lying, so they think it's fine for them to lie. Like,
Right.
Lance understands that the argument that Tim's making, but he's just intentionally lying about it and being dishonest because he's assuming Tim is being dishonest. He thinks, oh, why do you, I mean, you talk about groomers, so therefore I get to just, say you're actually the groomer because you care about children's genital pleasure. It's like, well, no, I mean, what we're talking about, and I don't know if it came, in the clip I saw, it doesn't come up. But to me, I would have, fire back at Lance here, like, well, wait a minute. Imagine if we lived in a society where female genital mutilation was legal.
Was the
in
norm,
America.
yeah.
Well, it was legal. And you say, oh, well, should a girl who's like 5 or 6 be able, for parents convince her that it's good to do? Should that be something that's allowed? And of course, Lance is going to say fucking no. Of course, he's going to say no. Oh, why do you care about their genital pleasure, Lance? Why do you care about
I don't know if Lance would say no, though.
He would.
Because,
he 100% would. Because women are a part of the oppressed hierarchy, punching down. So.
Unless,
but
of
so
course,
is,
it
so
was
is
like
Islam,
a Muslim
though.
thing, then he wouldn't then he couldn't say no. He'd be conflicted.
Well, I don't know. I would guess he would say no.
He'd be like,
That's
it's their culture.
That's why I'm
How
not
dare
100%
you.
sure.
Well, no, there's a difference between their culture in a different country in America. Well, I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. Lance, how do you feel about female genital mutilation?
Look, if it's none of his business, if a woman, murders her baby, why is it his business if some parent,
True. I'll see if he tweeted about it.
Someone tweet at him and ask him. He blocked me.
Lance, how do you feel about FGM, Lance?
What did you do, Phil? What did you do?
He put the clip.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, it's totally worth it. It's totally worth it.
I retweeted the clip 3 times so that way I would ratio him. So it might have been the retweets that got it, but I'm not sure.
Nice.
So bizarre.
That was very weird yourself.
You
guys are all
right.
layers.
No.
So I'm talking about adults who engage in activities, which is a large portion of the global economy, whether you like it or not.
Sure.
Sex sells, they say. And when I say this person will never have this ability, you go, how weird is that?
It's weird for you to fixate on a stranger's genital pleasure.
And then he says fixate.
Yeah.
He mentions it like we might want to think in terms of, this is an outcome that most people would probably find undesirable. And he's like, you're fixated on it. It's so bizarre.
If you talk about it, it
so
means
bad
you're thirsty.
faith. Yeah, so bad faith.
100%.
Strange. That's so bizarre.
Well, she's public about it.
But see, you're not making an argument right now, is my point.
I'm not. I'm saying it's weird. It's not an argument.
Yeah,
that's an observation.
So you're trying to make an appeal to emotion and an appeal to shame.
I'm just giving you my genuine thought when you say something like that. Like,
well, it was a really fucking pathetic attempt at trying to make an argument.
Why should we talk about that? Why?
Tim is so good here because he totally calls out him trying to shame him. That's exactly what he's trying to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Should we discuss whether or not she has genital feeling? That's not important. It's not. It's not in my business.
That's not important. What a dick.
Yes.
What a fucking dick.
What a dickless.
It's so bad. It's so bad just to think, oh yeah, we could sterilize children right and left.
Well,
Fuck
and also
them.
you could even say like, well, don't you think that if there's a substantial threat of the loss of that
all
function,
sexual
genital function,
yeah,
right, that should at least be discussed, in sort of the context of the conversation before people make life-altering decisions before they go through puberty.
I mean, that totally takes family options off the table. It makes marriage difficult.
Of course,
makes relationships difficult.
And
the whole idea, like the left is supposed to be the sex positive. They're supposed to keep this in mind, like having a healthy sex life. That's like the leftist philosophy.
Well, it's not. This isn't
right?
a principal position. It's just the win and argument position. So.
Oh, of course, I know.
Business.
So let's focus then on the sterilizing of the individual. Are you okay with that?
Who's sterilizing people?
Jazz Jennings is sterile.
Why are we going back to Jazz Jennings? I don't know
Jazz
anything
Jennings is
about
famous.
her.
Because Jazz.
Who's sterilizing people anyone providing gender
doing
transition
these-
surgery.
Yeah.
Literally.
Affirmative care is sterilizing people.
What the hell are you talking about? Like, how can you even ask that question? Who? The people performing the surgery, Lance.
Right. Any bottom surgery is necessarily going to sterilize them.
Yeah.
So
Unbelievably stupid.
Totally.
well, it's Lance. So
It is. He really, really did a great service to the right by going on Timcast. The left was
He did,
right
that
to
is
fear
true.
this.
it's true.
The people on the left are completely simping for him, though, in ways
That's
that
because
just...
it's damage control.
Oh, you think so?
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
look at-
some
look
of
at
it's
this.
damage control, some of it's self delusion. You know.
Some of it's damage control. Some of it's people that are equally as stupid as Lance is.
Right.
But like, I mean, look at this. We've been on for what 6.5 hours, and like we've been I don't know about you guys. I'm having a blast.
Yeah, me too.
Right? Like, and this is making him look like a jerk, and it's going to be clips that are going to go out. I'm super happy about him going on, and I totally understand why the left was like, please don't, and I'm totally understand why they're like, oh, we have to do our best to cover, because there are going to be tons and tons and tons of clips and content, like goes on and on and on, So
Right.
I think they're just trying to do their best damage control they can possibly do.
A famous
So good.
individual on cable television.
So if she is sterile for whatever reason, what does that have to do with me? Why does that
Sterile.
concern me?
Do
Why
you
should I pass?
support-
Look at this. Oh, God.
Yeah.
It's so painful. Why does that concern me? Why do I care? Someone sterilized your kid. Why do I give a fuck?
Why are you even on Tim Pool then?
Dude,
Like, why did you show up?
It's so insane. It's the same with the abortion thing. She wants to kill her baby with meth. Why the fuck do I care? It's none of my business. But at the same time, he's like, oh, I got to advocate for the trans kids, the people who think they might be trans. Oh my God, I have to save them. Like, how does he pick and choose? He's like the meth baby. Ah, fuck that. The people sterilizing them. Ah, fuck that. Come on. Have a heart.
The
Legislation
sterilization of teenagers.
This is such a weird way to frame this. Like,
You are removing teenagers' ability to have children.
I'm not doing.
It's almost like he's never even grappled with this as the result of affirmative care. It's so crazy. How do you not know that that's the result?
Anything. I'm not a doctor, Tim.
You
I don't have the
support
ability
it,
to do this.
right?
I support people having access to health care. Of course. Why would I want to prevent that just because some
you
people have
agree-
bigotry towards them?
Let's try again. You seem scared of this. Do you believe that parents and doctors should have the ability to remove the ability of a child for future reproduction?
They should have the ability to give them access to health care. Of course they should.
So why do you keep saying that?
You're implying that every single...
See, he totally has to reframe it. He can't even
Yeah.
grapple with the idea that this treatment sterilizes them.
Right.
Yep.
Maybe potentially takes away their sexual function for their entire lives.
gender affirming care results in sterilization.
I didn't say that.
That is not true at all.
I said the removal
There's
of
also
the-
people who are trans that never get bottom surgery.
You could make an honest argument that says if he really, believed in what he was saying, he could say, look, it's better that people not have the ability to have orgasms than it is for them to commit suicide.
Right. Exactly.
You
exactly.
can make an argument.
Is it?
if you believe
Is it?
For most
Is
people, I
it
don't know for
really?
I
you.
didn't say
Maybe
you
not
had
for
to
you,
be
Adam.
convinced of the argument.
Okay,
I didn't say it had to
okay.
be compelling. I'm just saying that you could make an honest argument. He just
Look,
can't.
nothing's
Or
going to make
refuse.
me suicidal faster than not being able to have an orgasm. Okay,
Well, fair enough, because you know what you lost. But if you don't, if you never know,
that is the horrible thing.
yes,
That is the
but
horrible thing.
I agree, but I can conceive of why a leftist would not.
You believe that parents and doctors should have the ability to remove the ability of a child for future reproduction.
They should have the ability to give them access to health care. Of course they should.
So why do you keep saying it like that?
You're implying that every single gender affirming care results in sterilization.
I didn't say that.
That is not true at all.
I said the removal
There's
of
also
the-
people who are trans that never get bottom
You
surgery.
seem very scared of this. It's scaring you
How am I afraid to?
because you keep deflecting when I ask you. So Jazz Jennings is a specific
Deflecting.
example. Let's try it. Let's try this. Let's
Tim,
slow down and go one point at a time.
You
right?
think I'm deflecting because I don't want to keep talking about someone's genital pleasure who's a stranger? I'm
Nice
saying
try.
I'm
Nice
saying
try.
it shouldn't concern
Nice
you.
try.
It shouldn't concern
Nice try.
anyone.
Nice
Tim.
try.
Your appeal to emotion is not going to work on me. I'm asking you a science.
I know I can appeal to your emotion.
I'm trying a logic-based question about the future of these people. I believe you are genociding them. I believe you intend on genociding autistic individuals. I genuinely believe that.
Who's autistic in this?
A large portion of trans kids are autistic, namely females. So this is an issue in that young lesbian autistic females are a large portion of those who are transgender.
Do you have data on this?
Dude, he's an idiot. He's a fucking
Yeah, he doesn't know
idiot.
any
He
of
is.
the background information.
He doesn't know anything. So
Well, I mean,
much
he knows
hubris.
enough to bring the talking points for the meta study,
When-
for the literature review.
Look, that's on some fucking leftist Twitter thread he got
Yeah,
it
right,
off
I know.
of. Like,
Yeah, of
he
course.
doesn't know anything about this topic.
Yeah.
What, there's autistic people that are getting
I know.
gender dysphoria? Really?
You don't say what?
He doesn't know any of the counter arguments against him at all. Like, he's never engaged with any of those. This is the first time
No.
he's hearing them. So-
This is the first time I'm like rewatching this. I've watched some clips and stuff, but this is the first time I'm rewatching the whole thing, and I've heard people say, "Oh, it wasn't so bad." And I listened to counterpoints do a bit of a back and forth, and he had some criticism of Tim, which I thought was fair.
How
but
dare he criticize Tim?
I know, but as I'm listening back, I'm like, actually, I don't know that I really agree with counterpoints criticism now. So I'm not 100% sure, because it's like, this is just such a bad performance by Lance. I mean, maybe that's what's.
Wait, are you saying Lance's performance is so bad it's made you rethink other people's critiques of Tim?
That nice try or nice try move was good. I like
it
Lance
That was a
doing
good
that.
move.
It
was a
might
good
be.
move.
It might be.
That's very funny.
We should do
that's
that.
Lance is so bad he's retroactively made Tim look better in all previous engagements.
And I mean, like I said, I was listening to counterpoints, and I was like, "Yeah, he's."
What did he
rational,
say?
and
What did Counterpoint say?
I can't specifically.
Okay.
I was laying down to go to sleep, and I was kind of listening to it as I was going to bed.
As you do when you listen to count. I mean, wait, what?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I do. I listen. If
I
I
like
wasn't with you
counterpoints,
guys
obviously.
right now, I would be listening to you guys as I go to bed. Actually, I would be
I know.
asleep, and you guys would be playing to my dog. You
Mhm.
know.
Nice.
But and when I'm probably going to get off fairly soon here, and when I do, I will listen to the rest of the show.
Yeah, you will
As
get
I
off
fall
fairly
asleep.
soon. Thinking of all these kids.
Easy.
Other people's genital pleasure. Oh.
Easy. Disavow. Anyway,
I mean, come on, bro. Do you have data on what you've brought up? You couldn't give me one study, but yes, I'll pull
I've
it up
given
for
you not only studies, meta
pull it up for
studies.
you.
I've given you multiple meta studies on this. I've given you a surplus of information on this topic.
Make up six times more likely to have autism, according to NPR.org. So I think you're trying to genocide autistic people. I literally
Six times more. What's the percentage of? That's what I asked you.
6 times, 60%,
You
Tim
said that's not
definitely
how
does
that
throw
works. That's
bombs,
not
right.
You don't.
600. Sorry,
No, that's not how that works.
you're
either.
saying what percent of them?
What percentage
are
of trans people happen to be autistic lesbians? That was your claim. That a large portion are. I'm saying I don't know any statistics on that. I've never heard that before.
So
He's so bad faith. He just goes to the internet. He goes, autism, transgender,
Yeah.
NPR. Look, how fucking biased is NPR? If NPR is even saying this, of course we've reached the tipping point. Jeez. NPR is like, oh my God, we are doing harm here.
the first thing I pulled up was that transgender and non-binary people are up to 6 times more likely to have autism, right?
Right, but that's not answering the question yet.
And your question is what portion of, let me Google it again. Because I thought that was sufficient and 24%,
So that's not the majority, even if that stat is true.
6 times more common, 24%.
fucking wow.
That's still not the majority, even if that statistic was true.
Yeah, no,
Look, he will only accept it if 51% of trans people are autistic.
Right,
Anything below that, 49%, not good enough.
I know.
but the majority is.
So 24% of trans people are autistic according to that data, and 6% of
So what I think is, I think that there are people who hate people with Down syndrome. And in Iceland, they've actually publicly avowed or praised their eradication of people with Down syndrome. I think that's horrifying. Like, you can be okay with it. I'm not saying you're not allowed to believe that, right? You don't have to have the same morals as me. I just think it's wrong to genocide like people with Down syndrome. You know what I mean?
You have completely derailed this conversation. You're assuming that I'm pro people having abortions for people who have Down syndrome when we're talking about.
I'm not saying you do. I'm saying in Iceland, they've
what
stated
does this have to do with trans rights?
Right. So we see a higher rate of autistic people, autism in trans kids.
You said it makes it the majority. It does not, even based on the source you pulled up. Okay.
24%.
Okay.
I still believe that this is very much an effort. I think the left is intent on genociding trans people.
In what way?
Removing their ability to reproduce.
How are they removing?
Okay, wait. Tim overstepped here. You can say that's going to happen. That's not the intention. That doesn't make any sense. That's not the left's intention to genocide trans people, obviously.
Right.
It'd be completely counterproductive.
Trans people aren't really a group that does a whole lot of reproducing. So
well, obviously, once you transition, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so
but it's not the intentional goal. That wouldn't make any sense.
Well,
but
he called Tim a pedo, and pedo. He's like, the gloves are off now. Fuck this guy.
Which is fair enough. I mean, I think Lance is a bad person.
So, it says in Iceland, they're permitted abortion is up to 16 weeks if the fetus has a deformity, and that includes Down syndrome. I mean, I don't know if I'm opposed to that. I'm fine with that.
I'm not. I mean, like I said, it still falls within my acceptable range for abortion. You know?
Right.
16 weeks.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that.
Oh man, tough one.
Apparently, they've almost gotten rid of Down syndrome in Iceland by doing this. So, I mean,
well, I mean, how do they? I mean, is it really getting rid of it if you're just aborting the Down syndrome kids?
I mean, I guess that's a good point, right?
Would
it prevent it from being passed on in the future? Yeah.
Of course not, because it was passed on, and the woman goes on to reproduce. So there's something going on there.
The original, original host.
Yeah, the host.
But I assume it would lower. Well, actually, I guess it wouldn't, because I don't. Actually, it might not make a difference. You might be right.
Know what?
Because I don't know. It's not like, I'm assuming there's not a high rate of. I could be wrong, but I'm assuming there's not a high rate of reproduction for people that have severe Down syndrome, right?
You should probably only get one abortion, or be allowed one abortion, and then after that, then they're all illegal.
Everyone gets one.
Spider-Man rules. The Spider-Man rule. Yeah, everyone gets one. That way, if your kid has Down syndrome and you abort them, you're not going to have more kids that are going to still pass down the gene. It's like, all right, if you abort and you don't want to have that one, then you're not going to have any, because you're going to stop the
Okay, I'll agree with this, but only if Spider-Man performs the abortion.
Okay, I'll agree with that. And only if he performs the abortion by
he's got to pull out with some.
Whacking the web right into the woman's
he goes
wound and you can't get
pulls
out.
it right out. Yeah.
Wow.
Then I'm on board.
Wow. That should be a TikTok.
There you go. See, there's a Spider-Man and listen, I bet you there's a Spider-Man and Elsa video somewhere where that fucking scenario
where the
happens.
abortion happens? Probably.
Yes, where Spider-Man pulls a baby out of a pregnant Elsa with some webbing.
I think I've seen that, actually.
Testicles and removing
that is not the only operation that is.
Tim still talks about them, but I don't.
Oh, okay.
I've never actually even seen them. I've only heard.
Really? Oh wow, you missing out.
Elsa Gate.
They are crazy, yeah.
Huh?
Like Spider-Man playing with his turd, like shitting out a turd and playing with it.
Weird.
I know. It's bizarre shit, man.
Literally.
Don't look into it.
On genociding
I'm
trans
Googling
people.
right now.
In what way?
Not really.
Removing their ability to reproduce.
How are they removing their ability
by
to reproduce?
By cutting off their testicles and removing their
That is
uteruses.
not the only operation that is done. There are trans people who maintain their same genitals as before. Not everyone has to decide to get bottom surgery. That's a choice they should make.
And cross-sex hormones do have a high rate of causing sterilization.
It can, but it doesn't always. And you can be trans and not get any operations at all.
So I think you are... So like, I'm in favor of making sure these people can always have families and have kids, right? Your position, whether you support the moral issue of or not, results in many of them being sterile. For instance, the reason I use Jazz Jennings as an example, because this is a person on television with millions of followers who wrote a book and told kids about this journey. The journey that Jazz Jennings went on resulted in a complete inability to have a family and have children. I think that's terrifying because Jazz was not old enough to understand the implications of that. Jazz will never have a family. Jazz, the genetics of Jazz Jennings is over. That is one of the most horrifying things to me as a human being, because I think genocide is wrong, right?
Why should her ability to be or have reproductive function, why should that concern you?
For the same reason the Uyghur Muslims in China concern me, like human rights issues. China, for instance,
But what if she never wants to?
Wait, what? Why do you get? Okay, Lance, why do you care if there's some kid out there who can't get gender affirming care and then kills himself?
Yeah, totally.
Like,
That's
what
what
kind
I'm
of fucking-
thinking.
Yeah, what kind of stupid fucking question? Why do you care? Why do you care
It's
about
a
the
Lance
health and
kind of
well-being
stupid
other
question.
people?
Only
That's
the
true.
things I'm allowed to care about. And what
Right.
you care about doesn't matter.
Only I can care about the health and well-being of other people. How dare you?
He's so dumb.
To have kids.
That's something you determine for yourself later in life.
Exactly.
after
So
going
why is it
through
our business?
Because it's been removed before Jazz could have the ability
But
to even
again,
make the conclusion.
that has nothing to do with us. She could decide to never want to have kids, and that's fine and valid.
Right. So my morals would be that a society protects the children because there's certain things you can't know until you're at least 24 or older when your brain is fully developed, which is why we don't allow people to drink and do certain drugs, whatever drugs are legal, until they're 21. So for me, I'm like, if you can't drink till you're 21, if there's like you can't smoke till you're 18, this society absolutely recognizes you can't drive till a certain age. That the reason that the driving age is what it is. One of the arguments made, I think it was in Illinois, is that risk taking is a lot higher in youth than it is in older people. So the argument is once you're past 16, you go through driver's ed. That helps control for the higher risk taking of younger people. So we set an age limit. For someone who's 10 years old to be put on Lupron and then cross-sex hormones, they will never develop the ability to reproduce. So in the instance of Jazz, again, a famous individual who's very influential with millions of followers, there was never the ability to reproduce developed, which caused complications. Complications aside, that's Jazz's personal business. But the puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones did sterilize Jazz, 100% sterilization. Jazz was not old enough to understand the implications of that. So I have concerns about having children, whether they choose to or their parents choose to. I think that's genocide.
I can kind of see your argument because if a kid was a straight kid, just a kid, and they were like a 12-year-old girl, and she was like, I don't want to have babies when I'm older. And the mom was like, okay, then we'll sterilize you right now. And they went and had the kid had a hysterectomy. I think that's illegal. I don't know, but I would imagine society needs to protect little kids from
It ought
crazy
to be
parents that are
illegal,
like,
Jesus.
just because a 12-year-old says they don't have babies later in life. So
Yeah.
the fact that it is sterilizing as a byproduct, I think should be taken into account with the whole procedure.
That's a great
I think
point.
that's
think,
still something that comes down to the individual and what they choose to do. And if someone is like, I want to have gender affirming care, knowing the risks, then why is that my business? It's the same thing with someone who wants to have a surgery that can have other complications. That's not my business.
It's none of your business if they're an adult, but you're talking about a fucking 13-year-old, talking about a 12-year-old. That's ridiculous. That's the problem.
If someone had an appendix inflamed and they had to have their appendix out, there are potential complications that come from.
And then like equating this to some procedure that we understand fully and have done for 50 years is just so disingenuous. It's like this
Right.
stuff is brand new. We don't know what we're doing. This is all experimental. Yeah.
That, but I'm not going to prevent them from having health care and saying that you can't have a right to get your appendix out, because every major medical association in the United States agrees that that is the best way to treat appendicitis. And in this case, when we're talking about trans people,
That's another.
bringing
up appendicitis is really bad. Like that, you just automatically die.
Right.
Like if you have like the best way to treat appendicitis, there's only one way to take the appendix out because it'll kill you. You know, you don't. There's not like multiple ways to treat it. If your appendix gives you crap, they just remove it because it's a old vestige of something that we don't need anymore, and so you just get rid of it. So the idea that it's comparable is ridiculous.
It's like a penis.
Ah! Well, I mean that's Lance's penis, maybe. But...
Oh, got him.
Yay!
Gender dysphoria, there is
Single
multiple ways
medical-
to treat.
Yeah,
Obviously.
exactly.
Well,
association.
I don't know if that's true.
Wow.
I don't know if that's actually accurate, but
Well, the way you define gender dysphoria, that's not accurate. But
well, okay, that's fair. Yeah.
yeah.
In the United States agrees on gender affirming care.
Then you know what they should
Every
do?
single one.
You know what they should do? They should produce one single randomized controlled trial for puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones to show that it's safe and effective. But they have not. So it's not healthcare, it's experimentation.
Yes. 100%.
Great point.
Yes.
Hi, you just listened to a clip from the Sitch and Adams show. If you like what you heard, you can listen to our live show right here on this channel on Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you want, you can super chat us. We read $20 and up super chats on the show and then do a follow-up stream on the following Tuesday where we read the rest of the unread super chats and interact with fans of the show. Subscribe to this channel right here to listen to the live show or to listen to more of our awesome clips.